Thanks for joining us. Welcome. Wow, that was fun. I could have just gone on forever with those two, but I love them. They're just such close and dear friends, and you know, that's one of the things I just really enjoy. I don't enjoy getting old. Nobody does. Nobody wants all those things, but you know, when you get to know people over a long period of time and you have enough failures in life, you just kind of relax about things and you get to know people at a deeper level. And I'm just telling you that there was a whole lot of wisdom there from those two about how to run a business, how to find balance in life, and marketing, making that transition from tradesmen. But great, above all else, great hearts and great people. So thanks to Dan Long and Sylvia Hempel. So I appreciate them taking the time to come in. And hopefully you do too. Right now we've got a nice chunk of time here. If you all want to call in, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Whatever you want to talk about, it's fine. It's totally great with me. I am going to touch on this because I don't think this can be said enough. When we talk about the problems in the world all the time, constant problems, constantly bad, everything is all bad all the time. Right? We can get better, but it's not all bad. And this is a fact that I think we need to put out in front of us. Since Trump was elected, the S&P 500 is up 36%. This is not a political statement. This is just a fact. Small cap stocks are up almost 50%. The NASDAQ is up 55%. Even Europe is up. And we now have our first American company hitting $1 trillion of valuation. Apple. That's an amazing run. And through that, when we think about that, we also have to go back and say, what else is happening? That's just Wall Street. And as I've said so many years now, Wall Street's not Main Street. They're two different things. But how's the economy doing? We've gone from, the new reality is 1-2% growth, just the way it is. And you know what? That is the way it is. When government takes over with high regulation and high taxes, things don't work. When you remove some regulations, you reduce taxes, you free animal spirits. This is where economists and certainly most politicians get this wrong. And I did not say liberals. Liberals always get this wrong. They do it intentionally, though. But almost all politicians get this part wrong. When we reduce taxes, revenues don't go down because the economy does better. Now, if you think that's a political statement, then I'm just going to say Kennedy did it way before Reagan did it. Lowered taxes, revenues exploded. Both of them. Both times. That's exactly what's happening here. The economy is now exploding. We went over 4% GDP. Everybody said that couldn't happen. Now, the same people who said it couldn't happen are moving on to talk about recessions coming right around the next corner. We're going to overheat. We're going to have inflation. Whatever it is. Because they're never really wrong. We're just another few days away from the next crisis. But I'm not wrong when I said it couldn't happen. I wasn't wrong when I said that Brexit would take the world down. I wasn't wrong when I said Greece, Spain, Portugal, the pigs nations. I wasn't really wrong in 2010, 11, 12 when I kept repeating the same thing. I wasn't really wrong when QE ended, that interest rates would spike. I wasn't really wrong. It's incredible. Nobody's ever really wrong if you're bearish. But on top of that, we've got jobs numbers we've never seen. We've just never seen this. The lowest unemployment rate amongst blacks and Hispanics and women. I know, they're all oppressed in the United States. We can do better. But can't we celebrate? U6 is at the lowest level. U6 is the unemployment rate, the underemployed, the people who have part-time jobs and want full-time. The lowest level since 2001. Incredible. The economy is on fire. Wall Street's on fire. But apparently, if you ask the media, if you ask the average person, the world is on fire. This kills us. It kills us in our idea of what we can be. You listen to Dan and Sylvia and talking about their businesses. They're optimists. If the world's ending, what do? Do you start businesses? Do you start families? Why would you bother going to college? Why invest? Isn't it all going to end badly if I do? It's important to have the right attitude, the correct one, the reality. Optimism is the only realism. We talk about characteristics of millionaires, our millionaire clients. I assure you they're not pessimists. That's just not a characteristic. Oh, and I know the pessimists out there call themselves realists. Okay, whatever. Whatever makes it palatable to be a grump. Things are working, and they're working very well. That's kind of sort of the bottom line. But it's not what the media feels they want to tell you. It doesn't fit the narrative. Trump's a nut. There's no question about it. He's just a nut. But his policies are really good. They really are. And we're seeing some amazing things overseas potentially. Could we really move to zero tariffs in Europe? That would be incredible. Amazing. Could we really have China stop stealing our technology? Our intellectual property? Charging 3 times the tariffs to do business in China? Could we? I'll bet we can. Can we have something good happen in Iran? We already have in Syria. It's getting better. What about ISIS? What about them? Oh, yeah. Not much noise from them anymore. It's things are working. They really are. But it doesn't fit the narrative, so we get negative news all the time, and it affects us, it infects us, it kills us, it destroys our ability to move forward, to live forward, and to invest. It really does. It's a terrible thing. And then further, if I can add this before we get to you, Doug, okay? We get driven into these bizarre products, equity indexed annuities that promise some kind of panacea of you get to have the stock market returns with no risk. We know that's not true. Your grandmother who didn't get through the 9th grade she already knew that. That's for sure. She already knew that because it's called common sense. You don't have to have a doctorate in economics to understand that that's not true. So we actually ran a comparison just to give you an idea. And the answer is it costs about 2% a year if you do it without the huge high commissions to guarantee you can't lose and get full upside participation in the market. I don't think you should pay the 2%, but I also don't think you should get locked into a product you can't get out of that won't ever work and won't come anywhere close to full participation. We ran the numbers. Actually, we didn't. We had bankers run the numbers, create a product. And it's available to everybody. Literally is. Full upside. You just don't get any dividends. Full upside of the market. Why people jump into these products, I'll never understand. Your whole life, the market's gone up 10% a year. But if we always perceive doom and gloom, and we can't accept the fact that markets can't be timed and or that they are going to have normal, certain to occur over and over again all the days of our lives, market corrections, then investing becomes really hard. And then we dive into these products. You hear them all the time. You got to go to the safe money, and it's a Wall Street casino, and all this nonsense. Instead of just saying, look, you know how people get rich? They invest, period. Nobody gets rich buying annuities. Nobody gets rich with savings accounts. So live in fear, always see what's bad, always see that it's always going to go away, and you'll be driven to non-performing accounts. But don't worry, at least the insurance salespeople will make a bucket full of money because the commissions are out of this world. Out of this world. And your money will be tied up for at least a decade. They don't work. And only fear brings people to it because everybody's common sense says that can't work. Why isn't Goldman Sachs doing it? Why doesn't Warren Buffett do it? Why don't certified financial planners do this? Nobody does this. It's fear. Fear sells. Doug, thanks for holding on. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Dave. I'm one of them ones that never invested except in hard work with my back.
Mm-hmm.
But what I don't understand, and I mean, I see this economy just rolling along better than it ever has since Reagan's.
Yep.
How come the Fed always sits there and jumps up the interest rate? I don't understand that. What are they doing that?
Yeah, good question. Good question, Doug. That's a great question. First of all, yeah, and if you will, turn down your radio a little bit, okay? Here's the thing. When interest rates go up, it's really we are starting right now. Let me start with where we're at right now, and then I'll go into the general why you raise interest rates. First of all, where we are right now, or where we were, was at zero interest rates. That gives the Fed no ammunition if we have a crisis of some kind to reduce rates and liquefy the system. We're already at zero. You can't go lower. And so we have a problem. We've got to get it back to norm. So now that the economy is so strong, we can get back to normal and go ahead and let interest rates go back to more normal level. And that's what they're doing, by raising interest rates, but also by shrinking the balance sheet. They've got like $4 trillion on the balance sheet. We got to get that back to less than $1 trillion over time. Now, they're going to do it quickly, but we've got to get that right. We've got to get that back to normal. So we're trying to normalize right now, number one, and let the market actually drive itself. The second part of your question is more of a broad question. Why raise interest rates when things are good? And the answer is so they don't get too good and we have runaway inflation. I'm not sure we're going to get it. Technology, in my mind, solves that so well. We're getting lowered cost in so many different areas that we don't really realize day to day that it takes that inflation, tear away from us as the overall technology solves so many problems or reduces cost at the very least. Now, when we take that all together, why do they reduce rates or raise rates? It's typically to try to find the right balance for the economy so we don't have too much money in the system circulating too quickly that could cause inflation. That's why. But they're not trying to take the punch bowl away. They're trying to balance this out. Can we grow by 4% a year? I think that we can without inflation. The Federal Reserve, however, always operates in a academic world. Academic world, to me, says we always study the textbook. Here's what happened 20 years ago, 30 years, 40 years ago, and we should study that. But we also have to understand the dynamic of a changing world. And in that changing world of technology, communication, different people, are all the rules the same? And the answer is no. So I'm hopeful that they'll be dynamic and not just blindly go about raising interest rates because that's what they've always done. Okay?
Well,
so that's the reason why, Doug, but we have to now. We have to now because we got to normalize.
What's that?
We have to raise rates now because we've got to get it back to normal. We've got to get it off zero so we can if we have a crisis, we can reduce rates, liquefy the system, and help solve the crisis. We've got to get it back to normal, and that's what they're doing now.
Hey, can I say one more thing?
You got it.
Okay, on this political thing, people. I mean, Kevin hears me say this all the time when I call him. Wake up. I mean, you see what's going on in Ohio and Kansas, how close this is. And Republicans are, I'm going to say Americans, people that care about this country, wake up, because you see what's going on. The other side is not going to give up. And if we let them take control of this country like it has in the last, since Clinton, as far as I'm concerned, Bush did no better as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
And I voted for him. But they get control of this. You see what's going on in Portland. You see what's going on in Seattle.
Yep.
You see what's going on in San Francisco. It will be everywhere.
You got
and
it.
that's what's called freaking doom and gloom and freaking mob rule.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Hey, Doug, I appreciate it. We're going to talk about Seattle and Portland upcoming with Reverend Bill. I'm sure we'll touch on that, too. So thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. Have a good day.
You too.
Thanks. And our number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We got to take a quick break here, and we'll talk to you on the other side. 580-KIDO. Hello, welcome, and thanks again for joining us. You know, it's been amazingly fast today, and thanks again to Kevin for giving me the opportunity to come in today. You know, it's one of those things you think about, what do I want to talk about for 3 hours, and then all of a sudden it's like, bam, it's gone. It's out of there. It goes so quickly, and thanks again to all the phone callers. So give us a call if you have any comments or questions, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And if you have anything during the week, you know, if you have any questions or comments, stuff we could cover during Money Matters on Saturday, that's at PetsoFinancial.com. We also have articles and calculators there, as well as podcasts of previous programs, so you can check those out there. You know, I mentioned this earlier, and I kind of want to come back to it as a final thought here before we touch on, you know, one of the things that is always on my heart, and that's the Boise Rescue Mission. And we want to talk with Reverend Bill Roscoe about that and what they're doing this summer with kids and all that. We're going to do that after the Fox News break. But I want to kind of circle back to this because I think I guess maybe it's just one of those things that just sits in my heart so much of how important it is for us to be taking personal responsibility in our lives. And to me, one of the centers of that is the freedom of having financial independence, the true freedom of having financial independence, not getting rich, but having financial independence where you don't have bills that chase you all your life, and also the pressure of that. You know, half of our country gets divorced. I'm divorced, and although this wasn't the case for us, one of the biggest reasons is finance. One of the biggest reasons is finances. And that constant pressure and having two people that aren't on the same page. I just want to spend. I just want to save. It's so important. And yet young people coming up now, they want to pretend money's not important. They just want to do what they want to do, but it's not important because it's not cool to think about money or plan for the future. But what's really not cool is the pressure that causes when you don't have a plan, when you fall into debt. And then it creates this feeling that people need help, that we have a retirement crisis in this country. And if we only had pensions like we did back in the 1940s and 1950s, you know, half the people had a pension. Of course, 80% of them didn't live to be 65 to collect a pension, but only half the country had a pension, and they had no 401k. There was no golden age of pensions. But if we want to create a crisis, and not a crisis of education, a crisis of making sure that we don't teach that capitalism is the only system that works, a system of personal responsibility, which is really personal freedom, we will get a crisis, and the crisis is always solved by government, which makes the crisis worse every time, always, 100% of the time, and your freedom is lost. I think we really, really have to tread lightly here. It's already trial balloons have gone up. You know it. I hear it all the time from people. Nancy Pelosi has continued to try to take the 401k plans into the government because there's a crisis. A retirement crisis. It's not an education crisis. No. It's not a crisis that people come out of in the richest nation with no knowledge of capitalism, what the markets are for, of investing, of entrepreneurship. That's not a crisis. It's a retirement crisis that we need the government to solve. And after all, there's trillions of dollars sitting out there that politicians could manage, of course, better than we could in your own life because there is a crisis. Let's be careful with this. Yeah, there is, but it's a crisis of education and raw stupidity. The education's out there, it's available, and people won't. They don't want to pay attention. So I'm sorry, I don't want to be rude, mean, but you can't always just blame it on the fact that people just, haven't been taught. How about if you just keep your ears shut and your eyes closed? You can make sure you aren't taught. It's there. And it also is up to us to teach our kids and make them wise. All right, we got to take a break for news, and we're going to talk with Reverend Bill Roscoe of the Boise Rescue Mission after this break. Hello, welcome, and thanks again for giving me the opportunity to do this. What a pleasure. And Ray, thanks. Appreciate your help today. Obviously, couldn't do it without you. And just a great guy. Ray, how long have you been here? It's like 25 years? 20? Yeah, I know, because my good friend, our good friend, John Dwayne, hired you on a phone call. Yeah, crazy. And you're still here. Yes, that's what's crazy. That's what's crazy. All right. Anyway, we're going to talk with Reverend Bill Roscoe here, and we also have known each other since you've been to town, pretty much through John Dwayne again on the radio, right?
That's right. Yeah. John.
What a great connector John was.
He was. He was a terrific guy, and Chris Kelly, I love those two. And right after I came to town, they had me on the air, and here I am again on the air at KIDO, and this time with Dave Petso. And
absolutely.
Thank you, Dave, for the invitation.
I can't let this go by because I always like to talk about the incredible work the Rescue Mission does.
Thank you.
Not just in feeding people, but having a real path forward. I use this statistic all the time as a starting place. Let's talk about it, and I'm sure we'll roll into all the different programs you're doing now. But 500 people per year have come in homeless and jobless and transitioned out into the community working and on their own. 500 a year. That's changed.
That is
people.
That's real change in our whole community, Dave, and that number has been pretty consistent for about 5 or 6 years now. So, and we're seeing it right now. We're on target to do it again. It's a remarkable thing.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of opportunities being available, and then we being facilitators to get people from where they are to where they need to be independently living again.
Yeah.
So again, I got to say, it's the most generous community on the face of the earth. God loves these people more than I ever will. And with all of that together and the hands-on care that we can provide at the mission, the encouragement, the optimism, all the things you and Dan Long were talking about, all of that working together helps people find their way back into the community, back into productive living.
It does. And it's such a calling. These are not, you and all the people you work with at the Rescue Mission are not exactly highly compensated people. In a worldly sense.
Well, okay.
In a worldly sense. It's not. It's a calling. And the amount of hours you have to put in, the heartbreak of people that come in that you love and it doesn't work out this time.
Yeah, and we see a lot of disappointments along the way. So those 500 or so a year are a real encouragement to us. And in that group of people, of course, are those who go through the drug and alcohol recovery program.
Exactly.
And when you see those folks make that turnaround, and there's 18 to 25 of those a year on average, you see people that have been living on the street because of chemical dependency and alcoholism, and their families are scattered to the wind, and life is chaotic, and they've been arrested and in jail and just faced all kinds of terrible life situations. When you see that end and you see that change, and you look at who those people are a year or 2 years later, it is really inspirational. And 1 or 2 of those in your whole life would be great. But,
right.
We see 18 to 20 of those a year. And
Crazy.
I can go all the way back now, 26 years of rescue mission work, and I've got people still out there doing great who came into the mission hopeless dope addicts.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm looking at one of
Yeah,
them.
well, you heard that story before.
Yeah.
40-something years ago, I was one, and Christ changed my life. I found some great support from my church and people that provided that life-changing program that I needed to inspire and encourage me, and my faith in God and His love for me turned all of that around. And that's what we really have to offer at the Rescue Mission.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's amazing. It's an amazingly successful program. I think one of the things I've always focused on with your drug, alcohol, veterans programs, all the different programs you have to actually offer a pathway forward for people. And including on that, I got to include all this other stuff, but real quickly so that people know. But you help people get GEDs, to learn to do resumes, to get them dressed appropriately, how to interview for jobs, all that stuff to get them prepared for life, because they have been maybe 20 years, or more on drugs, which is just stops your life. There's no development during that period of life.
That's right.
And so they have no skills. They have no interactive skills with human beings. So they're totally unemployable.
They are.
And you teach them.
Yeah, and it goes back to the family of origin issues, Dave. We see kids in our shelters today that we saw their parents 16 years ago here at Boise Rescue Mission. We saw mom or dad in our shelter, and today we have those children in our shelter, and that breaks our hearts. That these kids are growing up in such a chaotic and makeshift environment. They really don't have the opportunities that they should have in order to find success in life for themselves. But we're doing the best we can with a kids program, intervening at the early ages of life. And today we've got, I think I can say safely, we have at least 3 and maybe 4 of our former kids program members in college, going to college. And they went on our college road trip with us. They stayed at the mission with mom or dad. And we're seeing these kids finding the way out of that life cycle of poverty and addiction and pain. That's a beautiful thing, too.
You bet. I think you're working with CWI on some things, too. Are you
well,
not?
we've partnered with everybody we can, Dave. And I'm not kidding. We want to collaborate and partner with as many people and organizations as we can to provide those opportunities, because we can't do it all.
No.
That's impossible. And so CWI and Boise State, we've got 2 students at NNU. We've got great support from NNU. Right across the board, health and welfare, children's services, adult protective, veterans administration, the schools and the teachers and counselors in the schools. We're making contact and staying in touch with as many of these people as we can, because that's what it takes, to put all the services around someone that are available, to make them aware of it, to put those services around them. You have to have these good connections and relationships. It's kind of like you guys were talking about in business. You've got to make relationships with people that can support your effort and that you can support. They love us at the Ada County Jail and the Canyon County Jail. We're high on the list over there, because when people come out of jail, we'll pick them up, take them to the rescue mission, get them on their feet. And the same with IDOC, Department of Corrections. We have great relationships over there. Probation and parole, drug court, veterans court, all of those things. We are involved in all of these different parts of our community, because those are where we're going to find the people in need, and those are the people that we want to bring into the rescue mission and get back on their feet.
It's fantastic. You're talking about partnerships, okay? So Sylvia Hampel, who was in here and runs Clearview Cleaning, right, with Dan earlier, had mentioned this. It's like, would you please give Reverend Bill my card, because we are looking for 80 employees right now.
Oh, boy.
Right, I know, exactly. And so, but what I want to do is toss this out to all the employers who want to try to get on board and support, because you are looking for people or places to place these people who are successfully coming through addictions and homelessness. Where do they work?
Yeah. Well, they work all over our community, and I appreciate Sylvia thinking of us that way, and I'm sure we'll have some referrals. And as a matter of fact, I hope Sylvia's listening, Dave, because we've got competition for her coming out of our programs. We have 2 of our graduates who have their own cleaning business going on right now in this valley, and they're both doing great.
That's great.
It is great.
That's awesome.
But a lot of people need that first job after program. That's why we opened a thrift store, so we can get people into the work routine at the thrift store, help them them develop some good job skills and resume. But we need employers that are looking for a few good men and women to give us a holler. And we have those men and women who are ready, willing, and able to go to work, and we want to put them to work so that they can have their own place to live and take care of their own family again.
Exactly. Perfect. All right. With that, we got much more to talk about, but we do, not unfortunately. It is a capitalist country, and so we do have to pay for all of this wonderful airtime. And so we're going to take a commercial break right now, and when we come back, more with Reverend Bill Roscoe of the Rescue Mission. Hello, welcome, and thanks again for joining us. What a pleasure it is to introduce a longtime friend and to highlight an amazing. I said I want to talk about the kids' programs, and I do, but Reverend Bill, you have been amazing in the growth of this valley, an important part, because I'm sorry, I'm changing directions completely on you. I told you I want to talk about the kids' program, but maybe we'll get to it. But what has happened in this valley, I don't think people fully appreciate until you go to Seattle, you go to Portland, you go to San Francisco, and you see what is going on with the homeless situation. And I'm going to say this. You're not saying this. I am. But there's been problems in the past with working with some of the city here, and that's gotten better. And I'm glad. But it makes no sense, because what you guys have done is kept 500 people a day off the streets. Boise would be a lot different. It would look a lot more like Seattle and Portland. Human feces all over the place. You go to a building like mine, and it would just smell like urine as soon as I pulled up, because we're right in the downtown area. That's what it would look like. There'd be a tent. I'd have to park around the tent. Stuff like that is the reality of it. But somehow you've taken this from one storefront in Boise. There's now 5 shelters. Is that right?
Yeah.
At Clear Out in Nampa, Caldwell.
Yeah.
Amazing, Bill. Really, it's just awesome you've done. And I don't want to give all the numbers if I'm wrong. Is that about the right numbers?
Well, you're right. We have 4 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week shelters, 2 in Nampa, 2 in Boise. We serve men, women, and children. We don't discriminate. We serve everyone who comes to the door the best we can. But you're right, Dave, and I'll take some credit on behalf of my wonderful team at the Rescue Mission and the good inspiration and blessings of God. I'll take credit in some small way myself. But the fact of the matter is that we have a community here that really cares about people legitimately.
Yes.
They don't want to just throw money at a problem and turn their back and walk away. They want to be involved in solving the problem. They want to give their money to a place and agencies and ministries that are really going to use that, maximize that money to make a difference in our community by making a difference in the lives of people. And God has blessed us to be able to do that. We have a great police department in Boise and Nampa. We have sheriff's officers in Canyon and Ada County. The leadership of those law enforcement organizations have been wonderful, bright people with a clear understanding of this problem of homelessness and what, the root causes of homelessness and how do we solve this problem. And so we've had proactive policing for a long time in this valley, and that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. And in most cases, the city governments have been very wise in making decisions to encourage agencies, ministries like ours that are making a difference in the lives of people. And we don't always get the kind of cooperation we want or hope for, but there haven't been big barriers and stumbling blocks thrown in front of us, whereas in some communities there are.
Yeah.
Those cities you named, I have friends in Rescue Mission Ministries in all those cities, and for the most part, they're doing the best they can, but they're swimming upstream. The competition from government-funded agencies is a big problem, because when you have government-funded agencies trying to do the work of social service, in the case of chronically homeless people and other people on the street, they have restrictions and limitations that keep them from being able to get involved in the lives of those people, such as we can as a private, non-government funded organization. That's a huge difference, because when someone misbehaves in our kitchen, we tell them, if you keep that up, we're not going to serve you. Whereas if I'm taking government money, well, I've got to watch out what I say and who I serve and who I don't serve.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to say that we're mean or any of that, because we certainly aren't. Come on down and check us out, folks. We love people.
You guys are not mean.
Well, we
but
do
if
the
somebody
best.
pulls a knife or something, you got to be able to deal with it.
You've got to draw the lines,
right?
and you've got to have order.
You talked about that once recently. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it is. People need to understand that there's there's mental illness, there's all kinds of things you guys deal with, and it is something. I think that one of your staff not that long ago was actually beat up. By a homeless person.
We've had a staff person assaulted at City Light, and that was a terrible event. And the person who committed the violent act is a woman we know who was off of her medication. She's chronically persistently mentally ill, and was off her medication and lost control. And our staff suffered for that. And so, we have to deal with that too. It's the real world out there. We have incidents of violence from time to time, but nothing like you see in other places.
Exactly. I know.
When you serve 500 people a day with beds in shelter, 450, 500 a day, and you only have, 1 or 2 incidents of violence over the course of a year, that's a remarkable thing.
It is.
When you consider who those people are sleeping in those beds. But back to the point. The point is we have a generous community that cares about people. You're one of those guys, Dave. You're one of those businesses that supports the mission. You see the outcomes. You see these 500 people. You see these people going to college. We've got people in every part of this community right now who 15, 16 years ago were guests of the rescue mission. Working, productive people, members of the church, serving God, serving their community. We have a law enforcement officer. We've got a guy doing pre-med. He's 4 years into his pre-med career, and on and on. And small business owners and house cleaners, carpenters, plumbers, computer programmers. And those people all came through the door of the rescue mission, homeless and hurting and broken and lonely. And because of the support from this community and the wonderful people God has called and raised up to serve with me, we've been able to make a difference in their lives. You
certainly have. It's one of the reasons I think that so many of us are touched so deeply, because it's like, okay, so I'm going to write a check, but it's not just for a meal. That's important. I mean, you got to feed people to change people, right? But you have a pathway. And a successful pathway. It's not this narrow gate to walk through. You guys have something like 80% success rate with folks.
With our drug and alcohol recovery program.
I mean, that's unreal.
It is.
With the best government programs, not 20%, is it?
Right. Yeah.
It's amazing because of all those restrictions you're talking about, right? I mean, where if people fail, it doesn't matter. You don't have a time limit.
That's right.
I need more time. More time. Then stay.
That's right. And I love that. I love that freedom that we have in our ministry to do that. We had a lady stay with us almost 4 years, Dave. And she was seriously, persistently mentally ill. She had no education. She had 2 little babies. Her life was upside down. It took 4 years for her to find the way out of all of that mess. But she found it, and she's doing well today. And we took the time. We were able to take the time and help her through that process. And it's not uncommon anymore to have people for a year and a half, 2 years, because they have such great need when they come through the door. You mentioned the GEDs. If you don't have a GED, forget it. You're never going to get a really good job anywhere.
Right.
And you've got to have computer skills. And so we've developed these programs to teach people the basics of computer. And we've partnered with all the educational, academic people out in the community so that we farm people out. And we have great success with people getting high school diplomas and even going on to college. And that really matters. That makes a big difference. And I love the new trend now, finally, I think from the federal level through the president, of having apprenticeships again, getting businesses inspired to provide trade apprenticeships. I did that. I was an apprentice carpenter out of the Army, and that made a huge difference in my life. I got a good job, and I had a good career. I got a better one now, but, I started out as a nail pounder. So we're going to continue to do what we can to stay connected to people and agencies and organizations, businesses, and get people back on their feet.
I know, and you do. And you do a great job. And also, of course, effective with the kids. I know we're going to run out of time here. We're going to run out of time. But how many kids are in the summer program now?
We're averaging about 60 a day.
60 a day.
It's unbelievable. And they're having a great time, and I got a great team serving those kids. And those kids are seeing life from a different angle right now than they have in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt. Reverend Bell, thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Great to be with you.
It's great to be with you as well.
Thanks for all your support. Thanks for all your support, Dave. You're a great friend of the Boise Rescue Mission.
My pleasure.
Appreciate you.
All right. Well, that's it. Hey, I'll tell you what. This is fun. So thank you very much for putting up with me this morning. Ray, once again, thank you for your help today. And we'll see. Kevin will be back live next week. Have a great rest of the week.